Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rise and Grind in the Morning. I'm 72 the Architect, aka Jason B. And today we're going to talk about the week in review, recaps on the habits for the week of May 15th through the 21st. So we're going to talk about what we've covered on the daily Rise and Grind with the Daily Stoic. So stay tuned and we'll be right back in just a second. Damn it. All right, good morning. So we're back. It's May 21st. The month of May is just about over. And I think it's very important to kind of really cover, things a week in the review. So we're going to talk about, a little bit about habits, our momentum. We're going to talk about how we stay the course in difficult times, how we adapt, how we adjust. So we're definitely going to do that. Also, just giving everyone else a fair notice that I am producing live on YouTube, and Breakout's going to be a home for a lot of definitely recorded audio, social audio experiences. So we're definitely going to do that. And it's an interesting story because it's a brand new app. It has a lot of great features. I'm working towards taking part of my brand over into this audio experience. So just a few announcements. Also, I have now been able to put my pod page. So go to podpage.com and look up 72 The Arc. You'll find me. You'll be able to find a lot of things about me. So if you want more details, definitely you can do that. I've been learning and enjoying that experience. And now my podcast is launching over into Apple formally. I am using Apple, Amazon, what is it? God, I can't remember some of the other platforms right off. It's just I'm blanking right now, but forgive me. Anyways, so the point is that I'm able to record and put this content all for you all to listen, to enjoy. So if you don't catch the live show, all great. And welcome over on Breakout right now. I see John Wiley, somebody I listen to, and I listen to a lot of this guy's wisdom about podcasting, content creation, and so on and so forth. So that's the beautiful thing. Oh yeah, Spotify, Amazon. So if you listen on Audible, you can find me 72 the Arctic. So every week I have a lot of old recorded stuff that I can put out there for you all to listen and you be able to enjoy that. So Spotify, Amazon, Samsung Podcast Index, Apple, and they're all great stuff and great places, as well as Google Podcasts, Pandora. There's like a lot what I can really do. So yeah, so we're definitely looking forward to what's going to take place on there. So let's get into today specifically. Let's look at what is actually taking place right now. So a lot of us have been exploring brand new avenues, and we've been dealing with things like, where's our focus? How do we create better focus and pathways for us to succeed? As well as, do we understand what we've created in our pathways of how we fail consistently? So the first Stoic question of the week was back on Monday, and it basically said, what blessings can I count on right now? That means looking at what you actually have before your wants. I think it was very important because Marcus Aurelius in Meditations, he talks about, don't set your mind on things to possess, but more about your experiences. Then on Wednesday, we covered Are you on the right path to progress? That really points out to Epictetus. Epictetus kind of talks about, you know, show me someone who's sick and happy, basically show me who's really content with being who they are without looking for the knowledge and experience to improve themselves. So that's really talking about that. Then on Friday, I talked about progress through practice, which is very, very important, I would have to say. And, it's not easy to really look at how do we measure our progress. So that's also something that's very important to me. And, how does it relate to other people, so to speak. So we looked at that. Now today, for May 21st, it's can you stay the course? You know, no matter how hard you get hit. And we use Epictetus discourses, and he talks about basically kind of like being a boxer. And what he says is, like he says in this morning in discourses book 3, chapter 10, 6 through 7, he says, but what is a philosopher? Does it simply mean preparing ourselves of what may come? Don't you understand that really the amounts of saying that if I would be so prepared myself to endure, then let anything happen that will. Otherwise, it would be like the boxer exiting the ring because he took some punches. Actually, you can leave the boxing ring without consequences. But what advantage would come from abandoning the pursuit of wisdom? So what should each of us say to every trial we face? That is what I've trained, and for this is my discipline. So his question of the day is, can I take a blow and still stay in the ring? I think that's very important, to say the least. Um, you know, and how do we really look at that? Many of us adults, we've been through some pretty rough times, and we've been through good times. Do we take the same value in bad times as we do in good times? So that would be kind of like a Stoic question to ask, in general. And how do we treat as society? I mean, there's plenty of things to tell you that what's going wrong, what's going right, but what do you really use for your training? Like, for example, if you got in a dispute with a best friend over something small, should that be really a ding? Like, they stop being your best friend? Or let's say you were at work and you were just really having a bad day and the customers weren't feeling you, um, or for whatever reason, would you really want to stay the course? Just because you're having bad, oh, I want to quit this job, or imagine studies, right? Imagine you're in school to be educated on something and you quit because you don't feel like you're prepared enough for a test. I think that those are something that the Stoics really point out, and I really appreciate what Epictetus said, so to speak. Um, is it Fal Fadior? I don't know how to pronounce your name. Fattori? Is that your name? Anyhow, so pardon me, I'm a little parched this morning.
Hi.
Good morning. Do you care to add, or you're just getting on stage for the sake of getting on stage? Okay. I think that you're okay. I'm going to remove you as speaker. So there's a simple example. What about when you have distractions? And do you get in your feelings because you're distracted? And does it stay? Friday for me, I was definitely distracted. I did not set off the morning right the way that I wanted to. I put so much emotion into the way that things needed to come out. I was stressed. So, what did that show me? That really showed me something very, very important. It's like I let my emotions and my perceptions of the things ahead of me get the best of me. But that doesn't mean that I stay that way. And over the weekend, I've had some time for myself. I'm having time later today with my family, and I'm actually looking at what the most valuable points of my day and my experience. So that also means Like, are you doing the same? Are you looking at what really matters? That's definitely the point, you know? So when we look at what is taking place for us all, are you looking at what you already have or what you don't have to enjoy time? So let me read a little bit, just real quick, what Ryan Holiday says about the quote. And he says, the Stoics love to use boxing and wrestling as metaphors in the way that we use baseball and football for analogies today. But this is probably because the sports of pancration, literally all strength, but a purer form of mixed martial arts, is one sees today in the UFC, was integral to a boyhood to manhood in Greece and Rome. In fact, recent analysis has found that instances of cauliflower ears, a common grappling injury on Greek statues. The Stoics refer to fighting because it's what they knew. Seneca writes that unbruised prosperity is weak and easy to defeat in the ring, but a man who has been constant feud with misfortunes and acquires a skin calloused by suffering, this man says fights all fights all the way to the ground and never gives up. That's what Epictetus means. What kind of boxer are you if you leave because you get hit? That's the nature of the sport. Is that going to stop from you continuing? Now, in the world today, and this is open to anyone, how we see generations handle daily problems, right? Let's imagine you never had to put practice to your study. Like, imagine you never had homework in school and you just had to go according to what you memorized in class like days before. And then an instructor says, "Okay, I'm going to test you to see how well you know it." Would that not make you nervous? And for those who can't remember, yeah, they'd probably be in trouble. They'd probably fail. So we have practice in our lives for a reason. And when we look at what we want to what we practice, it's really practice is the teacher. Practice is telling us what we have and what we don't have. Practice is something that we look at. It's like, look, I want to be a content creator. Okay, great. What are you going to do about it? You got to make content, right? But there's more things to it. There's all the little things. There's little increments of training that you got to go along the way. You can't just say, well, hey, I'm a content creator. No one's going to pay attention to you. And as I'm growing the experience on YouTube and here on Breakout, I've got to reach ears and minds, and it needs assistance. The assistance is, do I make connecting issues that people can relate to? I believe I can, so to speak. And it also takes networking, your people skills. How do you get along? Sometimes you're going to deal with people that are not quite, let's just say, they're not easy to get along with. But what do you have before you try to meet them? There are people that definitely get along easier with others. They're friendlier. They know how to listen. They know how to take their turn in talking, but also appreciate the presence of people. Now, some other people feel like they need to be justified. Like, you need to pay attention to me. If you don't give me respect, I won't show you respect. That comes. It's dangerous, when you meet a stranger for the first time. That could be your next best friend or best colleague or client. It takes time. It takes really, really time to practice, to really reach the benefits of whatever you want to do. So the moral of today is how are you going to treat this next week? Are you going to put serious pleasure into your practice, even though your practice you may fail? Are you going to put real attention where it matters most? Or are you going to pay attention to your friend, your neighbor, or whatever's going on with the company, the politics of the world, the news, headline news? Is something bad going to happen and distract you and take you away from what you can do best, which you can develop for yourself? So now that I've given most of my talk, I'm going to open up the room to whoever would like to come up and who's been listening. How important? So the question to the room, to any of you, I see Jenny. Hey, thanks for coming in. Julie Locum, John Wiley, and R. Bay. Thank you so much. So the question is how much do you appreciate your practice for your craft? Do you really take pleasure in learning from your practice? These are questions. So if anyone would care to join up, let me see if I can invite some people and see. Oh, it's up to the audience, the room. Okay, so how do I invite my friend Julie? And how about John? Let's see. Okay. And Jenny. Let's see if I can do this right. I'm still learning how to use Breakout. Okay. So, guys, I'm just curious. Oh, you know what? How about as well as how important do you appreciate practice in what you do? Do you take pleasure in practice, even if you know how to do the thing already? Just out of curiosity, if you all care to answer.
I'll start, and then we'll go to Julie and Jenny. By the way, I love practicing what I do because it's always something you can improve upon. In the early days, and I'm talking about radio and the podcast and the broadcasting space. So the audio space, we had program directors that would call you in once a week. They would background record everything you said on the microphone, and they'd pick apart what you did well, what you can improve upon. Those are things that I always have to work on. It's not so much the guests in my show that I have to really pay attention to because you can move them certain directions, but it's really how do I do my craft. So the old saying is practice makes perfect. Will I ever get there? No, absolutely not. Is there always stuff that I can work on? Absolutely. And I discover where I can really focus on improving is in my editing and doing the same thing here in Clubhouse or Breakout or wherever it might be. The one thing you said that I had to learn a long time ago, and I still work on almost daily, is that I am solely responsible for my actions and my reactions, and it's my choice to give people power over how I react. To be blunt, Jason, the architect, I don't like how I feel when I'm off my game. It affects so much about me. So I'm always very much a work in progress in all fronts. Thank you.
Yeah, and John, if you don't mind me asking you real quick, when you first started in broadcasting, podcasting, radio, did you find there were times you frustrated, but if you just gave yourself a chance, it worked itself out pretty easily? Do you ever have opportunities like that?
Absolutely. The first thing is, and I had great teachers. So one of the first things was you had to get started, and we have to really. And I tell people this all the time when I'm doing my instructing. You have to embrace the suck. You're not going to be really good, and you're going to get better as you progress. But the only thing that provides experience, and like in our case, is microphone time. That's the only thing. And to think that blindly I don't need to improve uh, is kind of malarkey. Secondly, to really answer your question, some gentle prodding and examples from other people really helped get me in the right direction. But yes, a lot of those things took care of themselves. I had to be aware that I was making these mistakes, or for lack of better words, I was doing things that were counterproductive. So until I became aware of that, the prodding of other people, I was pretty much paralyzed to continue doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. You know what that is, right?
Yeah, I think that's the big important thing right there, the over and over results. And when you're learning in your practice, it's always it's like when you get irked, like, oh, I have to stop. Oh, let me do this again. Let me get this again. And sometimes I treat it like a game, no matter what it is. It's like, okay, I got this. I got this. I can do better. Just that one that you learn if you're really in tune with your learning and observation skills, you really can take that little instance where it's like, all right, let me just smooth this out. Instead of pushing so hard, let me just let me just try just a little lighter. And it's like you're probing, like you're checking. All right, maybe if I do this, I do that. And then then it starts to work out. And then you figure it like, it's like, is that all I had to do all along? But it's the failures that get you to that point. And I think where we are in the world is we're not allowing ourselves to enjoy the failures as well as the successes, because success, it's like, okay, I'm good, I'm over it, now the next thing. No, this is why Sunday brunch is so important, is because it's time for reflection of the week. What did you do this week that you did in practice that came out good at the end of the week? So Julie, same question to you. How do you enjoy enjoy practice? Same question. And do you let it fulfill you? If you care to answer, if you can answer.
Yes. No, that's a great question. I love John along the similar lines. Everything we're doing, everything we do every day is a practice towards something. And when we rest on our laurels or think we're at the pinnacle of our success, that's where I think the real stagnation and dissatisfaction in life begins. So it is kind of a circular event of doing the practicing and then figuring out what you're gonna practice next. So
right.
I love it. Great question, Jay.
And Julie, and just one other small question. Was there ever a time you practiced something so hard and it frustrated you, and it just took one step, you just took one step back and then it worked out? Has there anything been that way for you that you really learned, like, maybe if I don't press so hard, I come back and guess what? It worked. That might be a harder question to answer. So
pretty much everything. I see so many different things that I do. I always feel like I was the jack of all trades, master of none. Like that was my whole, like, that's what I always said. I tried everything. My truest talent since I was a little kid, the thing I loved to do was to write. And when I did backpedal to stop trying to, do everything.
Your signal might be a little difficult, but I know you're driving, so it's all good.
This isn't your question, but that's what came to mind first.
Yeah. And thank you for your reply. Now, Jenny, if you care to answer, my question would be to you is, same question to you is, has there ever been a time, or do you enjoy practice and doing what you do, no matter what it is, and it's essential, it's just good for you? Do you enjoy practice on anything?
Yes, I do enjoy practice, because to me, and of course, you practice makes perfect, and you want to be perfect in your craft. So the more you practice, the more, it's easy for you to do.
And that's why I'm distinctive.
A little rough in the background. And, making the mistakes, it's okay to make mistakes. Like I always tell everybody, we're not perfect, but making the mistakes and learning from them is going to make your craft more, let's say, structured,
Right.
And more professional. So it's okay, the more you practice. I love practicing. Where I'm working at my daughter's restaurant, I'm literally like getting back into that workforce, because I've been working at home in doctor's office all my life. So, working out there now at my age, and I'm actually practicing my craft and being a better, greeter when my customers come in, interact with them, eye contact, smile. So I got to get into all that mode again, because I'm always here at home. Who am I going to smile at? My family? They already know what I look like. It's like, So I'm bringing all that back so I can be the best waitress there at my daughter's company. So, yeah, I mean, practice is perfect. So I love practicing every day.
And I'm glad you brought up being a waitress. Before I started getting into law, I can tell you I spent 17 years in waiting tables, bartending, wine stewards. I worked in hotels. I worked in Yosemite National Park. I worked in regular restaurants. And one thing of being in the service industry is you have to constantly be adaptable into things. Like if there is a customer or a guest that is really pissing you off, it's like you have to put on a smile no matter what, no matter how hard that punch is. Like they're just being rude to you. Like I think every server has ever been through this scenario, or they do, excuse me, waiter. It's the rudest thing that we ever have to go through. I think every server goes through it at least once in their career. But even if you have to serve people, say like in over 40 and you're not in your 20s, see, that's the thing is like we're already experienced. We know how to really treat people in essence. We should. Common sense would tell you, be nice to me, I'll be nice to you. But believe it or not, practice, in waiting tables, especially, or even bartending, by being able to be in that constant environment of being adaptable, reading the situation for what it is, not assuming, is very essential to every person in service. And why I love hiring people who've come from that environment is because they can listen, they can observe, and they can report to me what needs to be done. Now, imagine that you don't own a business. How can you change that for yourself? Say, like, you got parents, you got parents, and you got kids to take care of. Your parents are senior citizens. Your kids are doing whatever they do. How often do you think that practicing your patience? I just had this. Someone asked me yesterday, how often practicing your patience with people is essential? Because there's times where I fail. I absolutely fail. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that to my partner, or I shouldn't have talked to my mom that way. Or maybe I shouldn't have talked to my friend that way. And people who don't know you, they'll remember your worst first. They'll remember the worst about you more in tendency. Why? Because I feel the world is kind of tuned in that way. But if you're constantly showing your best and you've got a great quality, you got a good personality, and people know of it, but do they really value it? And it can take just one thing. We've seen it in public eye. We've seen it in celebrities. One screw up can take your whole reputation down. And we talk about cancel cultures. We talk about things where people are canceling out, but it's like, why do we measure the tickets so closely? So this is why practice is so important. And also the value of the habits, good or bad, your habits, practicing your habits, being mindful of them, knowing how to speak, is important. Caroline, welcome to the stage. Same question to you. I know you just entered in recently, so thank you for showing up. I definitely appreciate it. How important is practice to you in whatever you do?
Practice is very important to me. I am a perfectionist, and I did get that from my father. And I'm older now, but when I was younger, because I was a perfectionist, I think that it was it was not a good thing, because I would be afraid to do something, to just jump in and do something unless it was perfect. And nothing is ever going to be perfect. We all set our standards on what we think perfection is, and what I think is perfect, then, the next person may not think that it is. But, I do have a high self-confidence, and I can laugh at myself if I do make mistakes. That's the way that I deal with things. But, when I was younger, I was just mortified if I did something, that I thought people would think was wrong or whatever. So, yeah, I definitely am a perfectionist, but, I just have to not expect perfection out of everything I do, because nothing is ever going to be perfect. And so, yeah, I definitely believe in practicing.
Now, it's interesting you said that right there. You said you're a perfectionist. And let's look at some words that we identify. I think that there has to be a close relationship to what we say and what we think. And if they're not integrated and if they're not married properly, I would say, then we could be promoting a false sense. And people talk about like imposter syndrome and things like that. But when I hear people say perfectionist, this is no judgment on you. And because I've done it too. What does that really represent in essence? When I feel when I say I'm a perfectionist, that means I won't quit until I get it done right. But it also invites judgment. It invites criticism. It does it allow you to critique things versus criticize. And the difference is critiquing is not taking a personal value to it and looking at for what it is. And criticism is taking a personal value and looking that there is a negative connotation. So perfect is defined having all required or desirable elements, qualities, and characteristics as good as it possibly can be. Whoa, that's huge. So
Yes, it is. And actually, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go right ahead. You can give me a pause. So what were you going to say?
No, it is. And so I'm going to give you an example. A friend of mine joined an MLN to make extra money. And they sell their goods, what they have on Facebook, doing Facebook Lives. And so I joined just to help her become a director. But I do have an outgoing personality. And I thought, you know what, even though, I'm not doing this for a business, I just wanted to do it for fun. So I didn't want to go ahead and start doing lives when my little kit arrived. The directors, they said, you know what, you can just put your phone up against a tissue box. It doesn't matter what your background looks like. Everybody's just there to see the jewelry. But no, not me. I had to have the ring light. I had my husband buy me the big umbrella lights that you see in studios. I couldn't see the iPhone well enough to see people's comments to be able to interact with them. Mm-hmm. So he had to buy me a big TV. And so see that for me, that's what the perfect studio would have had. And so for me, that caused a big delay rather than just jumping in. And I could have done it as soon as the box came in, but I didn't. So for me, that's
important because if you think about it, what would have just fulfilled you to get the task going? Was it really? And I think this happens to all people in content creation, whether you're a podcaster or a streamer. It is really one specific thing. Are you getting lost in having the script right? Are you getting lost in too much technology? Do you have the lights, the phone, mirrorless camera, the digital interface, the microphone? When I started out podcasting 6 years ago, I started on an app called Anchor, which is now podcasting with, what is it called again? Spotify. It changed its name. And so it used to start, you could only do 2 minutes. And then it eventually evolved to 30 minutes. And I remember all these people wanted these fancy things to do. I've got to get the Blue Yeti microphone. I got to get an XLR microphone. I've got to have headphones. I've got to have all these things to do before I can actually commit to creation of your story. And, even looking at more about perfect, here's also what it says. Take notice of this. It also stands for absolute complete, or making something completely free of faults or defects, or as close as such as a condition as possible. So this is where practice really relates to any of us. Are we making a word like perfect, a thought, an identity, really completely freedom of fault? And that's where our judgments really screw us over. And, like when I'm learning from John in his clubhouse rooms about podcasting, or he's talking about doing radio, he expanded me. I'm going to give you credit, really, John, for this. You expanded me to want to go into radio podcast. And I liked his definition. John, would you care to share your idea of what podcasting is versus radio? What are the two? Because you said some things so important just the other day about that. And I think that's where we need to really look at, especially if you're content creation.
Well, first of all, podcasting is broadcasting. So when you are a podcaster, podcasting is the term we use on how a show is listened to. So what I tell people is be a broadcaster. The difference between radio and podcasting is this. Radio, generally, you are an employee for a company, and it's all about transmission. So if you are within transmission range or your show's on a certain time, then people can hear your show. However, once you're off the air, they can't get it. The difference between
Oh, shoot.
Oh yeah, when you bring somebody up as a host, it'll mute their mic.
Oh,
there we
sorry
go.
about that, John.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear it because it was
No
on my
worries.
side. I couldn't hear you quite. I was like, well, maybe if I bring him up as host. So my bad. My apologies.
Okay. No worries. It could have been me. Here's what I tell people all the time. Podcasting is broadcasting. So remember, all podcasters are broadcasters. The difference and the similarity between radio and podcasting in the audio space is this. When you're doing radio, you're confined to the transmitter, the time that your show's on. People cannot get it any other time. And you may have a situation where you are an employee for a station or a company that owns that station. So they guide what you do. When you are a podcaster, people can get your show on demand whenever and wherever they want. So you can have listeners worldwide at any time of day or night, but they've got to discover you. So where the similarity is to be a good broadcaster in radio, whether you're in a talk, spoken word format, or you're in a music format, you have to be relatable to your chosen audience. That's the same with podcasting. This is where most people lose it. Instead of focusing on you, focus on who your ideal listener is and get them to engage and consume your content. Remember this, podcasting is broadcasting. End of story.
And I like that for many reasons, because I like the part that you said on demand. That was huge. And I think that people miss that one major point. It's on demand. You can listen to it 2:00 in the morning. You can listen to it 10:00 in the morning or 5:00 at night. If you don't want to, let's face it, how many people say that I don't want to watch TV anymore? How many people say that they don't want to conduct themselves trying to find a program to watch? I think I came from an era, and I believe most of us on stage, we come from an era where maybe we only had a few channels, like turning the knob on the television, or maybe actually having what they called a clicker. Like every time you pressed a button to change the channel, it was a clicker. And so now that we have all this data, we have these avenues to do video or audio. And now it's like, hey, I can do it on demand. I can listen or watch anything I want. And that's the beauty of podcasting. And it takes work, to make it all happen. And now we are seeing a new ethos, a new environment in the last 10 years where anyone not only can be famous, but you can build wealth, you can build a studio, you can be a storyteller, you can talk about crime or the environment or whatever you want. I mean, one of the most popular viewed people and listened to this day is a podcaster. Who is that? Joe Rogan. The Joe Rogan Experience is the most referred, listened, recorded, and live streamed audio and video out there. And no one has more. I think no one can deny that. More than what's on headline news, or NBC, Fox. It doesn't matter. Those guys don't compare to the amount of listenership and viewership that what a podcaster and a live streamer has done. And that's the beauty of it. Caroline, you care to add something?
I'm sorry, I touched it by mistake.
Don't worry, but it's all right. It's all good. But think about what that means. And so by practice and what you already have, it's not about the things. And here's what I want to do is offer an upgrade prescription. Are you really a perfectionist? Because how many times did you just got it right, you're satisfied with the work. I've gotten it right a lot of times on my audio and video, and I'm proud of it. And so do I call myself a perfectionist? Not necessarily, because I feel like there's some egotism going on there, but I could be. It could be. So when you go about this week and you attempt whatever you're going to attempt, or you're going to adopt something brand new, the encouragement, first you get the motivation, okay, it sounds great. Then there's inspiration past motivation. That means, all right, I'm going to do more than I know that I'm going to suck, but I'm going to keep going until I get good at it. Like me practicing the guitar. When I started out, I sucked. My fingers hurt, but my fingers got calloused over. Had fun with it. So that's something to say. Now, I'm getting ready to bring the close to the show, but I just also want to say thank you for whoever's viewing, all those viewers on YouTube. So you can go back if you missed part of the show, and this is recording available on YouTube, and I refer to it Breakout. So it's Rise and Grind, or no, excuse me. Today's called Sunday Brunch Weekend Review with 72 the Architect. You can find it all that way. And I want to thank you guys all for your contributions. Those are big on Breakout. The more that we share, the more that we create on here, the more visibility. And what can we learn from people from all around the world? It's just a huge opportunity. So I want to thank you, every single person on the stage. Is there anyone who would like to add some of their thoughts before I get ready to close out the show? Any curiosity? What did you gain from this show and this experience to maybe help you make think forward? And there's the meditation speech. All right, guys. All right. Thank you so much for coming out. I am going to be on another Breakout show in probably about 1 hour and 10 minutes from now with Dragon, another personality here on Breakout. And it's Breakout and Breakthrough is what his show is. So if you are not a subscriber to Dragon, I'll be on with him. I don't know if Julie's going to be available, but I think you're also a co-host on there. So it's been a great experience. I hope to see you all grow and prosper. And yeah, so thanks so much, guys. I definitely appreciate you.
Thank you for the room. And I'm so glad that you're here, Jason. I wouldn't have known about you had I not met you here on Breakout. So I'm looking forward to your future rooms, and I will definitely check out your podcast that you have on YouTube.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that so much. All right, y'all. You all have a great day. I'm going to be bringing the close, and here we go in 3, 2, 1.